and welcome to the best thing we watched, where we continuing our October Halloween Fest, our own little festival of top 5 horrors of. It's been interesting. What are we into our 3rd week now, Chris?
Yeah, we are.
And we've had a wild ride with some interesting choices on both sides, I think. This week, however, is going to be a really interesting one because we're doing top 5 animal horrors. And I think the scope of that is vast and wide as to what is animal and what is monster. So I'm wondering what some of our honorable mentions will be, as well as what's in our top 5. I myself have ranked them, sort of, which I think you have as well.
I have as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I think good to share to everybody. We have this Google Docs folder that we share, and so it has this running list of animal themed horrors that we have found. And this was tougher to do than I thought it was, because a lot of the ones that we have found on there or that we've put on that list are just awful. I mean, and not even awful like, ooh, you have to watch it, because there are some of those, and 1 or 2 of them have actually made my list. But then some of them you start and it's like, I don't know if I can ever finish this. It's just horrendous.
Yeah, there are those like that. All right, so let's get into it. Hi, I'm Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday. We've got Chris from Movies and Munchies, and we're doing our top 5 horror animals. Kind of. I don't know if they're all top 5, but they're in there. And at the end, we're doing the best thing we watched on the podcast extra section, where we talk about the best thing we watched and some news. So do tune into wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. There are so many places where you can find these podcasts. One of my friends mentioned to me this week, he found it on a random podcast show that I didn't even know it went out to. So chances are it's there somewhere. Okay, Chris, would you like to start with your number 5?
Yeah. Let me do. These aren't honorable mentions that I'm going to start with. These are ones that should have been better. Okay, so I when I was going through the list, and most of these I've got to say are available on a streaming platform that you probably already have already. Like a lot of them are on Amazon Prime. It's actually surprising at how many are. Some you can even find on YouTube. But the one, okay, I'm just going to give you the title: Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf. Okay, that title is why I clicked on the thing. Now, that is not the first in the series. I think it starts out with Sharktopus, and Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf is it's extremely boring. It has Casper Van Dien, which should have been great. It was just boring and blah. And so I decided, well, I'm going to give it another try. And I watched Sharktopus versus Terracuda. Now, I think that's number 2 in the series.
Amazing.
And okay, so I started watching it, and I'm going to make this short, but it had Robert Carradine, who was in Revenge of the Nerds. It shows the cast right at the beginning. And then it goes through a whole bunch of names that I've never heard of. And then it says, and Conan O'Brien. And I went, ooh, okay, I'm going to watch. I'm going to see this. This movie is boring, too. It has all of the cheesiness, all of the just terrible acting that you want in some movie like this, but it just was.
That's the worst with those titles. But has no right being boring. Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. That it should have been good. So I've come to the conclusion that anything with Sharktopus in there, regardless of how awesome the title is, that is probably the best part of the entire movie. And so, these should have been better, but. Okay, number 5, and like I said, these were hard to do because some of them were just terrible and everything, but this is more of a, it was a mainstream movie. From 2019, it is Crawl. Now, it's Alexandre Aja's movie, or Aja?
That's my number 5 as well.
Is it really? Well, that's okay. So that we talk about it. All this right. One, it's a hurricane is coming, a Category 5. This woman who has an estranged relationship with her dad is going back, and she can't reach him. She gets to his house, finds out that he is trapped, and as the waters are rising, all of these, are they crocodiles or alligators?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Alligators.
Okay. I don't live in Florida or anywhere over there where we actually have these other than in zoos, so I don't know. But the waters rise, and these alligators come in and they just start, it is very close quarters. It's sneaky, and this is way better than I thought it was. I actually avoided seeing it in the theaters because I was like, oh my gosh, seriously, are you kidding? This is going to be just hot garbage. Especially, there's one scene that they show in the trailer where they're in the bathroom and the water is rising and she's inside the tub behind the shower door, and the alligator's just bumping up against it, and then
the water's rising.
Yeah, and she outsmarts it and then runs off, and I'm like, oh no, that whoa. Blown away. What did you...
I mean, blown away is the correct one for this. I totally thought this was going to be terrible, which is why I sought it out, because there's another series that I love, which I won't spoil. But I thought it was going to be along the lines of just really cheesy, badly done, so bad maybe it might be fun. I was hoping for a lesser version of something like Lake Placid. Yeah, but man, I was surprised by there was actually decent acting from our lead protagonist and the father. But those I would say corridor shots, but more under the house, in the crawl space, literally why it's called crawl, with the crocodile, the way that is shot, you're literally always on the edge of your seat, not knowing when or who's going to get munched on. And it takes a few turns. It reminded me a little bit of... There's a Hard Rain with Keanu Reeves and Morgan Freeman. There's like the town's just getting flooded. And thankfully not the whole film is in the house, so you get a bit of action outside of that. And when it got to that bit, it was getting more into this is a Hollywood type film. You can, she's got plot protection, I guess.
Yeah.
But all that time in the house is some of the best camera work I've seen done with the crocodile that looked really real. Like, how'd they do that? Those are the times I want the Blu-rays or the DVDs that we used to get, where we had all the commentary or the making of. If you go way back when onto like the videos, before your film comes on, you get those half-an-hour specials that come on TV sometimes. There's like, this is the making of. Literally, I was like, I want to know how you did that, because that was cool.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, some of it even harkened back a little bit to like Jaws, where you would, we as the audience know something's coming. I mean, we've seen some visual clues. We know, even the music is ramping up and stuff, and the way our characters are being framed, but it still doesn't negate any of that tension and that anticipation that's being built, because you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Get out, get your feet out of, the whole time. And I'm like, I was continually impressed as the movie progressed along, because I'm like, this just keeps astounding me. I'm like, whoa. And maybe I'll give it that I went in with lower expectations, but I don't think that changes how much fun the movie actually ends up being. So
no, I think particularly animal horrors get a bad rap. People just immediately think there's no ways this is actually a good film, right? And I think that's what I came away from, is like that, even though it was a crocodile monster movie, it was actually a good film. The pacing, the way it was edited, the way it was shot, the way it looks. There was a story, even though there wasn't much of a story. It was basic, but you were really behind your protagonist. You were there for that ride. And it's definitely a roller coaster ride. And those are my favorite escapism of 2 hours. You come out just with a massive smile on your face and go, that was so good. I have a shark on my shirt. I love those type of...
Outstanding.
I love those type of films. Yeah. So funny that they both are number 5.
Yeah, that's good. We're off to a great start.
Yeah,
that's outstanding. Okay, well, what? I don't know how this screws up our numbering or whatever, but what is your number 4?
Yeah, I guess we'll just do that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just showed you a shark, and so this is an honorable mention. You briefly mentioned it, but it's Jaws. So we can't really go into a horror top 5 without at least mentioning the shark movie that started all the shark movies. There's been hundreds, literally hundreds. And although I do think it's aged, and I know people hold it up to quite a high regard, and be like, you can't say anything bad against Jaws. There are some parts in it that I just found the pacing now to be incredibly slow. Some of the dialogue, I'm just like, However, the creation of one of the best score cues to one of the worst sharks. Like it's a terribly made shark. It's awful. But the tension is so high that it's a PG that still scares the crap out of adults. And that just goes to show you don't necessarily need an age restriction to make it a horror. It just has to be well filmed and create tension. And to this day, there are still people that won't go into the ocean because of Jaws, right? As such has increased this amazing amount of fear. It's solidified a reality that, wait, yeah, sharks, many teeth, that sound, I walk towards the ocean and dun 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 dun, and you're like, nah, not doing it. I'm cool here. Okay, so that's my honorable mention. I just thought before I carry on.
That's a good one.
So now you'll understand why I'm not doing one film, but I'm doing 5 films back to back. Because we're going Sharknado, baby. Yeah, and everybody sighs and like, how can you put this in your top 5? Because of how much fun I had. This is one that every time one came out, my youngest son and I, we would stick one of these on and would just laugh the whole way through. Mostly because of all the cameos. It became a thing where, I would guess, I don't want to say B-list actors, but actors that you've seen a lot on TV movies and TV series. They wanted to come into these movies and be killed off by a shark in some horrific way. And so it becomes a thing of like, oh, that's that guy from, or that's that girl from, let's see how we can guess how they're going to die. And then you try and guess how ridiculous the plot gets. So at the beginning, it's Sharknado, and you're like, well, that's ridiculous enough, right? And people are drowning in like this amount of water, or they do slow-mo shark, the shark's going to get me, and then you see the person running, and then the shark is suddenly further back, and the shark's going to get me. Or you see a shark, a sort of baby shark, jump out of the water, and the person's like, it's eating me, when it's blatantly a rubber shark that they're moving around with their own hands. And then you end up at time travel. Like, it does it all, right? And it's so much fun. Like, I'm just going to say, a space sequence with David Hasselhoff fighting a shark. It doesn't get better than that. That is the most ridiculous. This is what I like about this franchise. It knows what it is. It has a cult following because of it. And they got sillier and dumber as they went on. And they just embraced what they were. And for that reason, if I need a stupid horror animal movie, it's my go-to franchise.
Well, and think of how many movies would not have been made, you know, of these terrible type movies without that first Sharknado. I
Absolutely.
mean, it created and it captured, because it was on like what, Sci-Fi at first.
Yeah.
So not even widely distributed. I mean, like basic cable movie, and then to gain that cult following, and then to spawn films, but then to influence and get all these other studios, as small as they may be, you know, and independent financiers, to be like, hey, that worked. We might be able to ride on their coattails. And so I think that's impressive too, just to create something that is a phenomenon like that influences so much more.
Yeah, there's I think it's the 5th film. There's an art director called Felix Coles. She's fantastic at what she does. Like, she creates monsters out of like amazing budgets. Like, sometimes they don't have great budgets, and they call her in. I got to see her work once when I was on a film with her, but they've got the shark, I think, in their studio somewhere, just up, because they were so proud of it. And the chainsaw from the 5th one. So I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it. So much fun. And you can see everybody involved, like, just loved doing what they were doing there. Yeah, so from Jaws to Sharknado. What's your number 4 then?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go also semi-terrible, but I don't think it has quite the cult following yet. From 2014, Beasterday. And now the full title.
I can't believe this. This is in my list as well.
Oh, is
it? Here comes Peter Cottonhell.
Yes. So
this is my number 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let me let me just briefly touch on it then, and then we can address it more as we get to your number 2, because I don't want to steal the thunder of that because it's higher up in your list. But just a giant bloodthirsty Easter bunny starts viciously killing the local townsfolk. When the mayor refuses to act and the attacks grow much more gruesome, the town finds its very survival in the hands of a wannabe actress and a crazy dog catcher. Yeah. I mean, the graphics are horrendously bad. And I was just sucked into this thing. Just, oh my goodness. Okay, well, let's save it. Let's save the rest of it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about it because I think this is good, and it's your top. So how about you can tell how well prepared we are. But see, we don't share each other's lists.
No, we didn't want to do that because it makes it more interesting. Yeah,
exactly. So you're along for the ride just as we are in this episode. Let me go to my number 3 then, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
So let's see here. I'm trying to find the year for it. Okay, it's 2012. It is found footage. Now this one is going to hedge just barely on the animal horror, but it is it really, when you think about it, it is called The Bay. Now it was directed by Barry Levinson, and the premise is that an ecological disaster happens, and the water of this town in this area becomes infected, and they're these little microscopic they're animals. I don't know. Not bacteria, but they're actually like little animals. And what they do is they get inside you and they kill. And it's fairly instant almost. I mean, you get like blisters and boils and all kinds of just nastiness on there. And so if you swim in the ocean or in the water surrounding there, if you drink the water from there, if you even eat food, now this is a seaside town, so they're a fishing town. So
because they would have washed with the water, yeah.
Exactly. And the fish, the crabs, the lobster, they all came from right in there also.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of cheesiness to this, like some overacting. There's some bad voiceovers, or not bad voiceovers, but they just it is tense though. And there is one scene in particular. Now, this is all found footage. So it's like the government has collected all of this, and then it, confiscated it, and then it kind of gets leaked. And so now we're seeing it years after the fact. And so one of the reporters, I think, is the one who's narrating some of what she sees. She's collected all this information. But one of probably one of the craziest, most intense scenes of the movie, you don't see anything other than this. It's cop car. It's a dash cam footage, and it's at night, so it's kind of greenish. And they pull up in front of this house, and the cops run in, and all you hear now is the radio chatter, and it is just nail biting and terror. I mean, you're like, you hear some screams, you hear just the dialogue back. It's just. It puts you on the edge of your seat. And then this is one of those movies like Jaws that you don't want to go back in the water, because what ends up happening and what the explanation is super plausible. So it's not one of these that it's like, a meteor has landed and it has cracked open, and years later, stuff has come out and this is an alien type of thing. No, this is all based in something that could be real, which I think then makes it even more terrifying.
I haven't watched it. So it's a microbe?
Yeah. And it takes over. I mean, it gets infected in, in crabs and in fish, and then in people. And so you get to... Oh,
I see. So I was wondering how it's animal, but now I see. So it takes over the creatures, and what do? They just... they die.
Yeah,
okay.
And so like if you went to the grocery store at your local fishing town, or not even the grocery store, heck, you just you buy it off the dock from the fishermen there.
Yeah, the fresh fish, yeah, of course.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you do that? And so it has because it's these little living creatures within there, and they infect, and so and that's why I said it can hedge in the animal themed horror, but it's Yeah.
Sounds really tense. I love those sort of films. They do keep you, like, if you're eating food, you'll eat it quick. You're like, yeah, I do that too often when I watch horrors. I make the mistake of starting to eat something while watching a horror, and then and now I've got indigestion, and now I'm still on the edge of my seat. I'm definitely,
and you don't have anything else to eat.
No, exactly. So, this is 2012.
2012, yeah, and it is. I mean, I think just like scrolling through the cast, there's not anybody. I think that
it sounds good though. Was it one that went under the radar a bit?
I think so. Like, just even looking at the ratings, it's like, middle of the road. And so I didn't see it when it came out. This was one of them that, we had been looking for something and we're like, oh, well, let's try this. I think I was even on a found footage kick. And so I was searching out more of those movies that were just the found footage horror. Because, there was that stretch of time where that's pretty much what every movie was.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to be a horror. I mean, it was just they were using that, and some of them outstanding, some of them not so much.
There were so many.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, this is one of the better ones. I still love watching it, and it still creeps me out, and it just leaves that feeling of like, oh, especially because it's the unknown killer, the unknown animal for so much of it that they don't know what it is, and now they're piecing it together of no way to escape really either. So
amazing. Definitely going to stick that on my list. I love those sort of films.
So that was my number 3, but I don't know where you're.
Yeah, so I'll do my 3, and we can talk about my 2 after.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a fairly old film, and it's. Yeah, I say old. I guess 1996 is old now. Kind of. It makes me sad when I think about it that way. Okay. I'll see if I can get you to guess what it is. I'll read the synopsis. A bridge engineer and an experienced old hunter begin a hunt for 2 lions after they start attacking local construction workers.
Is this, wait, see it in my head. Is it Michael Douglas or Val Kilmer?
Yeah,
or
both. Both correct. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. It's called The Ghost in the Darkness. It's set in Africa, and there's 1 lion or 2 lions get they eat a human accidentally, I think, and then what happens is they become man-eaters because they don't normally like the taste of humans, but once they've tasted humans, that's all they'll eat. And so they start hunting at night. And it's just a terrifying journey of, again, the unknown, because you don't know where they are. They hunt at night. They seem more intelligent than your average lions. And if you know anything about lions, it's not even necessarily accurate because for the most part, it's females that do all the hunting. But these are 2 male lions, so it's an unusual combination. But it's the pairing of Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer that are, apart from the director, who I believe is, what's his name? Stephen Hopkins, who did Predator 2. So he's done some interesting films along the way. But this has just captivated my imagination, and it doesn't age that much because it's set in Africa and they don't use much of technology. It's a film that kind of it stays the same because they don't rely on technology. It's all about the story and the time and the lines. And I don't remember there being much CG. I feel like they interspliced with real footage, so it made it that much more realistic. Where recently there was a film with lines as well with Megan Fox. I think it was called A Rogue something, and they some of the worst CG for a lion, and so it was shot wonderfully. But as soon as you see the lion, you're just like, like, don't do that. Don't do the film if you can't rely on good CG. And even the best CG, like Disney level CG, you can still tell that it's not real. Which is why I like it when you get animal films, you manage to either get an animal wrangler. You do get cats that are raised from birth as to be actors. So if well done, you can do it. I was just on the edge of my seat pretty much the whole time watching this.
I've never seen it, but do they use like, at least in my head, I picture tall brown grass that just flows.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All of that. Yeah, it's like you can barely see them. It's just the eyes. They meld into the background. They will grab people at the back of their tents and just pull them out. You know those shots where you just see people like being dragged, and you're like, ooh, yeah. I think Val Kilmer has his wife and child, so there's that parental protection. And there's like people that are great hunters, and they're getting taken out, like the Maasai warriors. But it's not Maasai; it's the Bushmen, I think, like the San or the Khoi, as they called them. And like when amazing hunters are getting taken out, and people with guns, you're like, yeah. And this is like, it's not so old. They don't have technology to use to stop the guys, and yeah. There's much more of a story into it. Obviously, there's engineering, reasons why they're there, but it's definitely the lion story part of it that I think will keep you engaged.
Well, and I think that's, again, the plausibility of this, the realism that brings in, that's what really creates some good terror and tension. I mean, I don't, even like I have desires at some point to visit Africa, to go,
on a safari
to see just the wildlife in its environment. But I also don't want to be chased by a cheetah or a lion or anything.
You should totally get out of the Jeep and take some pictures,
and
right?
take some selfies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do, right? This is the 21st century. We have phones that have cameras on them.
Right.
The animals should understand that we are here and they need to pose with us. Just,
Do you know which animal in Africa has the most kills of humans?
Hippopotamus?
Yeah. Those things are lethal, man. They fast as well.
Just see, that's the thing. Well, and rhinos, I think, aren't rhinos like the fastest cornering mammal?
Yeah, you think you can get away. You're not getting away. Once they start charging, just get behind a large boulder is your best bet. Like even climbing trees, it'll take the tree down.
Oh, welcome to National Geographic. In case you're tuning in, you didn't realize that we're having our... No, oh my gosh, so that is...
Look at that blighter. I'm going to start trying to do accents now. I'll do my African. Yeah.
Yeah. See, going back to the movie, I mean, just the realism portion of that is what does create for me, the terror. And then when you bring in a family aspect, that protection, knowing that, good grief, if trained professionals who hunt these things are getting picked off, my child, what am I doing there? Let's just leave. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, the rest of you are going to have to fend for yourself. I got to get them out of there. We're going to go.
There's a really good story, but I don't want to spoil it because it's one of those that reveals itself as it goes along. But great score. It's one of those that's filmed on film, obviously, so it has a fantastic grain to it, I think, which just adds to the real, like, out of Africa sort of... Because Africa itself, it lends itself to cinematography, so it's just beautiful to look at. And then you add in horror element to that, and you're there. The adventure has begun.
Well, I'm adding that to my list. This sounds really good. And I really enjoy Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, so this will be good.
Fantastic cast.
Okay.
Okay, so before we do Beasterday, what's your number 2 then, I guess?
Oh, let's see here. Okay, I got 2 honorable mentions. One, now I haven't finished this movie, and I'm not really sure I'm totally recommending it. It's called Bunny the Killer Thing. So the title is why I started to watch it, because why not, right? But it... Okay, so this dude gets kidnapped, injected with some serum. People are experimenting, and it turns him into this giant bunny-ish type of thing. I mean, think were-rabbit, the giant rabbit from Aardman, except just nasty looking, all matted fur and everything. It, though, has a massively large penis that it attacks people with.
What?
And at that point,
I could never guess you were going there.
No. And then it starts screaming things, and I'm like, okay, nope. Gotta go. I can't do this.
Thanks for the recommendation, though.
Yeah. I mean, if you decide to watch this, or if you have watched this, I'd love to know, is it worth watching? Is it worth finishing? I can't imagine that it is. Everything about it is terrible. Like, the acting is just horrendous. The cinematography, if you can even call it that. I mean, the camera work, the camera quality even is just all atrocious. So it's just, it's not good, but the title alone. So if you're in the mood for something that is just absolutely bizarre like that, go for it. My next one is not really an animal, even though it kind of is. It's animal mixed with alien. So we're going to go there. It's called Grabbers. And it's
nice.
Yeah, you've seen it? Okay. Yeah. the reason we decided to watch this is because the premise is that this alien with all these, like, is it tentacles? Yeah,
it's like a squid monster thing.
Yeah, well, they're attacking this small town, but the villagers discover that if you're drunk, they don't attack
Such
you.
Such a
and
great
you
premise.
Can't die.
I love it so much. Yeah.
So you have the cast running around trying to actively stay drunk, and then trying to function while drunk. And
so you gotta fight alien squid monsters while apps, and it's not a little bit drunk. You have to get your toxicity level like really high. But this comes from a town. I think it's an Irish town. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Where people are used to drinking. Like, this is like what they do for. So it's he has like 6 Guinnesses. Sorry, I'm taking over. Yeah, I love this film. It's great.
No, you're totally right. That's exactly this. So this is why it's on my honorable mention, because it was one of those that absolutely surprised us and just loved. I mean, it was just bonkers. And I love, and like you said, the town where they're used to drinking. I mean, they play into that stereotype of Irish and drinking. And so, if your tolerance level is already up here,
what do you have to do? Yeah, the poor barkeep. I remember him moaning. It's like, they're going to clean me out. I'm going to have nothing left.
And that's at some point you do run out, right? So,
right. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, that's a good one.
Okay, great film.
So my number 2 is 2006, and it is Bong Joon-ho's The Host.
Nice.
Now, let's not confuse this with some other movie, I think,
from
by
the
Stephanie
Twilight.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
I don't know what that movie's about. I don't care. Guys, this one is spectacular, and you have the U.S. government. So there's a little bit of a social commentary in here also, and almost maybe satire. But the U.S. government has dumped some chemicals in this secret lab, and what they do is they flow into the Han River, and that then mutates the a fish with other things. And so it becomes this massive creature that has a really long tail. I mean, the whole thing about it is not right. I mean, so you take a fish and it now has some legs or appendages, just a really big mouth. A young girl is taken, and you have now the family trying to get her back, and just the emotion, the cinematography in this is spectacular. I mean, you're sucked in by just the beauty of how it goes, and there's a time limit to it. I mean, there is so you feel urgency because there is a chase that's going, and there is a part where the characters are in I think it's a sewer, and they're hiding, and you see and you hear, and sometimes more you hear than anything, and it's just, you can't breathe. You just, and so I'm sitting there feeling along with my characters of like, and there's a lot of emotion to it as well. I think it's a son, is he a son and his dad, that relationship, and just you watch even the character progression of the son, and he's, I don't know, need to look up his name, but he's been in several of Bong Joon-ho's films. It's Song Kang-ho, and he's been in a bunch of them, and so you would recognize this actor, and just you watch his character progression, and go from slacker, I think he's uncle maybe, to the girl, he's kind of that fun uncle or whatever, and then he becomes so much more, and he has to step up in responsibility, and just the whole thing really works. And the CGI doesn't always, I think, hold up as well, but you know what, it's 2006. He created this creature, and so some of it you kind of go with. There's this one scene, I think it's in the trailer, where like these people are they're running alongside the river, and there's all these steps that go up, and I guess people can sit there and, I don't know exactly what it's for. Maybe it's just an aqueduct and that's part of the structure, but the river's really low. But you see all of these people racing, and you see up on the top, and it's fairly far away, but the monster grabs somebody and it just throws them. I see them just fly across, and then land in the river. And so it's amidst all of the emotion and everything, the chase and those, the violence is still a lot of fun as well. And so did you see this one?
I've seen this a number of times. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I think Bong Joon-ho is a genius. I absolutely do. Like, when it comes to his films, I'm there. Okja was one of the most heart-wrenching films I've seen, a Netflix original about a super pig. And Snowpiercer, yeah. Sorry, my brain was having it. Like, just incredibly tense. Talk about intense filmmaking. And obviously that's now spawned, I think, 2 seasons. And yeah, that's doing quite well. But going back, yeah, the only drawback is that the CG has somewhat aged in parts, but there are places where it's still really polished and it looks great. And like you mentioned, some of those wider shots are fantastic because there's actually a lot going on in the background. So where it's focusing on this family, and I think that's the film's selling point, because it's always about the characters. So he does spend a lot of time about this broken family, and they are, the older dad is trying to look after them in this food truck, and the kid's basically just eating the food and not really doing much. But he has a daughter that he needs to look after, and then that she gets taken and it becomes this rescue film. So you're on there. I think that the other daughter is like an elite athlete archer or something, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and so that's going to come into play somewhere, like what dynamics. So when it gets into it, like the latter end, you're totally on board because you're rooting for the family. It's also not afraid to go to the darker places with certain characters, which I was very happy about, which I think is a calling card for Bong Joon-ho. He's of the same train of thought, I think, as Stephen King when he says, "Don't be afraid to kill your darlings." And yeah, so there are moments in this film I was just like, no. Yeah, incredible, great choice.
All right, where does that bring?
That brings us to the bunny. Yeah. Okay. So in the UK on Amazon Prime, it's called The Beaster Bunny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's Beasterday. Here comes Peter Cotton Hal. Hide your eggs. A 50-foot man eating Beaster Bunny is on the loose, and the townsfolk won't stand a hop in hell. My gosh. Okay, so the first time you see the Beaster Bunny, you're like, how is this a movie? Like, seriously, it is so bad. Like, I can barely call it CG. It's just like green screen over a bit of film that they filmed, and actors reacting badly and badly timed, and literally, and then jump off screen and then cut to Bunny. Which is like behind the house for some reason or doing its thing. And I love the way the people react badly and slowly or in the wrong direction in this. Like, there's so many times where it's like, it's coming this way. And then they're like, wait. Yeah. I think I shook my head and laughed a lot. Not because at any time I was really entertained. And I was just like, how are you on Amazon? How have I not got a film made when this thing is alive?
It astounds me that because I mean, the bunny itself, is, I mean, it looks like a doll that has been run over several times by a truck, and then they kind of just, stuck it back together, and then they just kind of move it along. I mean, it is.
out of focus shots, badly trained, no steady cam, a Dutch shaky for the sake of it. It's like I did that intro that I showed you recently with the T-Rex thingy, and without like going, I think some of my shots in that thing are better than this movie that I put together one afternoon. You know, and so they're just like, well, so how do you get budget, and how do you rope your friends and family into making something like this? And this is not even the first film they've done. Like,
oh really?
I'll need to go. What did you think?
Well, the acting is atrocious. It really is. Yeah. It is even take away the acting part of it. I mean, like, you could blame a lot of it on the actors, but you can also blame it on the dialogue. I mean, the dialogue is just painful. And then the whole, like, the first half of the movie, I think they really just play up exploitation. You know what I mean? Like, you have this woman who's standing in her room, in her backyard gardening, and she just looks up and she screams. Yeah. She runs, and then apparently, excuse me, the bunny slashes, and her top falls off, and now she runs around in slow motion, topless, and you're like, why? What? Why? There's yeah, it's really. I mean, it is exploitative.
Yes, but boobs, Chris. You gotta have boobs.
Well, I understand, but this is not the 80s where we had the TNA movies. You know what I mean? This one, so the moral is, if you keep your clothes on, you might live. Might. Because there are several times that people take their clothes off for whatever reason, and they don't survive. And it's just, even the very beginning. I mean, let's just go with the very beginning of the movie. It takes place at a wedding that has really no context for anything, and you have this toast that is supposed to be maybe funny, maybe searing. It's just completely awkward, but not even in a good awkward like in Bridesmaids, where Kristen Wiig, is just, you're cringing. No, this is just cringy because it's just terribly written, terribly executed. And then somebody is just attacked, but we don't see why or how or.
Oh yeah, this is the cut to the wood area next to where the wedding is happening for no reason, no context, just is. Yeah.
And then we're into the next day.
Yeah.
And then it's going along.
Yeah, there's no continuity, like at all.
No. And yet I couldn't stop watching it. I mean, I was sucked in the whole time, because it finally did become one of those that it's so bad that it's kind of good. I mean, this is not of the, well, yeah, it's number 2 on your list. And it deservedly so. It's on both of our lists because and not as an honorable mention. I mean,
no, it's like the worst. You should watch it.
You should watch this. Yeah, it's just.
You know what? If you're a budding filmmaker, you should watch this to give yourself hope. If this can get made, you're all right. Just go for it.
Yeah. Yes.
You got no excuse, really.
Yeah, no doubt. Just go for it. Just do it. Just do it, man. Put your stuff out there, because
it's gonna be better than this.
Yes. Oh, goodness. All right.
So this leads us to your one.
Oh, okay. My number 1. This has been on my list for a while. And I only got to check it out this year because it had been on my list for quite a while. It was on Amazon Prime, and then it disappeared. And then a friend online had messaged me on Facebook, and he was like, dude, have you seen this movie? I was like, well, it's on my list, but no, I hadn't. He goes, it's back on Amazon Prime. You've got to check it out. Well,
okay, I'm intrigued.
My wife, to her chagrin and her utter disappointment, sat through while me and my 2 sons watched the Velocipastor.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks very much for that, Chris. Because you also were like, you got to check this out. Oh my gosh.
Hey, sharing the love. I mean, talk about another movie that has absolute continuity issues. The acting, the directing is terrible. One of the opening scenes this guy who is becoming a priest, training to be a priest. He comes out because his parents are visiting, and he's I don't even know why it happened. I can't remember why it happened.
I can't remember either. There's no reason.
He walks out of the church, sees his parents getting out of their car, and you hear an explosion, and he goes, ah! And it flashes to where the car was. And on the screen, there is no more car there, and it says VFX explosion, or insert VFX here. And then it continues on. And we all, after we wiped the tears from our eyes, we rewound it because it was like, no, surely that was not, they didn't do that, right? And no, that is on purpose. You think that maybe they forgot, but that is on purpose there, because if you look at it, it's not like just a regular title card. They actually put the
it's
title.
like a green screen with the title. Yeah.
This was done on purpose, and it sets you up for what's going to happen.
I actually think it's a stroke of genius, that moment. It's brilliant.
It's so well executed, and it catches you off guard to make you then go, oh. But so this dude turns into a velociraptor, and when he does, it's spectacular. He's running around in this rubber suit that is just awkward, bad. There's ninjas. I don't know why there's ninjas, but there are ninjas.
You gotta have ninjas.
Yeah, at one point they switch and him trekking through, I guess it's supposed to be China. Was that where it was? China? Some Asian country. And it just says China. Some park in their backyard. Yeah. And the battle towards the end, where the Velocipastor, he's in peril. The love of his life is in peril. He's being attacked by all these ninjas, and he transforms. The fight that ensues, that is one of just gloriousness, because you have the rubber-suited Velociraptor just poorly executing moves, running around. You can see parts of the guy inside the costume. At points while a fight is going on, there's dudes dressed in ninjas just standing in the background, not doing anything. And then there comes a kill, and it is so wildly not real. And I love that then the camera focuses to show us how not real it is in the aftermath. And it's this is a garbage movie that everybody needs to watch. I do believe it's on YouTube now, because that's where you saw it, right?
Yeah, that's where I found it. Yeah, it's for everybody to experience the gloriousness that is Velocipastor. I was sold by the title. Let's be honest. The title is brilliant. It doesn't get much better than that in titles. At least this is one that it sticks the landing when it knows what it is. It is funny, it's ridiculous, it's stupid, it's barely a film. The editing is atrocious. The acting is unpurposely awful, I think. I think the acting is good because I feel like they're on purpose being
they're
bad.
Overacting, right?
There's this one woman's, she gets slashed, and then I think later she's fine, and it's like, you're fine? Of course you're fine. And I was just like, what? Okay, great. Let's run with that. The seriousness of the priest, cutting after the parents have died. I'm just, are you, is this really happening? This is amazing. Okay.
Well, and can you explain to me why the trailer for this has an Australian accent?
No.
Okay.
Why?
Because it doesn't
maybe
takes place
just
in the U.
Yeah. Maybe they hired a guy that was like, I do voiceover acting, not knowing that it was Australian. Maybe they thought it'd just be funny.
Maybe. Because nothing about the movie is Australian, or just because I think it takes place, doesn't it, in Kansas or something like that, right?
Yeah. Also China. So the Australian has no reason for it.
It's an international production.
Exactly. That's what they were going for. Amazing.
Oh, okay. So after that ridiculousness, what's yours?
All right. So this is one you're probably never going to have guessed that I would have had. My number one. I'm not even sure you've seen it, but in the UK, this is a film that has caused many children nightmares and probably have needed some actual help. Like after watching it, they may have needed to go and see a psychiatrist. It is so dark that the BBC, I think it's still to this day, have fights about it being a PG, because they think when this film was made, it was PG or 15. And so it got a PG, but it should have been a 15. So there used to be like PG 13s or 12s, and it should have at least gotten a 12. There's been radio shows about just a discussion of whether this is a kids' film or whether it's a straight up horror. And it's called Watership Down. Have you ever seen this?
Is this the one with the bunnies?
Yes, it's another bunny.
Okay.
So Netflix did a remake that
Sure.
was CG. Yeah, but there's an original one that was made in, I think it was adapted by a novel by Richard Adams from 1972. It was made in 1978, so it's old. But I tell you what, it's the most realistic take and look at what happens in the lives of bunnies. You see them die horrifically, like badly. It shows blood and all of that for PG. It is animated, but it's early style animation, very, very dark. But the juxtaposition of that is life, and so it's a look at death and life, and it's like you could take it and study it and write theses on it. It's just that in depth. But it's horrific. I remember watching it going, and I wasn't young, but going, this is horrific. Like, it scarred me as a young man. And then I remember talking to parents who had accidentally, this is a bunny film, this will be fine for my kids, it's a PG, and kids crying for weeks on end because of how horrific. Like, it's the theme is seriously adult in a kids, like, wraps in a nice little bow of kids, and it's horrific. And for that reason, it's my number one, because it's still to this day talked about in like radio shows, TV shows. They discuss like, what is it about Watership Down that was so scary.
I have not seen it, but looking it up, it looks to be on HBO Max.
Oh, there you go.
So I have to check this out. Yeah, PG-13, 91 minutes long.
Yeah.
Well, and it's animated also. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's looking at some of the photos there. I mean, that.
So it's not the Netflix remake CG one. Yeah, the original. Yeah.
Oh, that okay. Oh. Well, I can't wait to watch it. That's terrifying. That you would have a seemingly innocent-looking movie be so horrifying that you would, plop down with your kids and watch. Now, back in the the 70s, 80s, I mean, you pretty much wouldn't just sit your kids down and then you go do something else. I mean, it would be a family event. Now though, so putting it in, oh look, bunnies, and okay, oh, I'm excited to check it out because it is your number one. I mean, this is to watch something that is just absolutely terrifying and horrendous that sticks with you. It sounds like so.
Yeah, the British Board of Film Classification is still receiving complaints about this movie for decades after its release due to the board's classification. Oh, I was wrong. To classify it as a U, suitable for all. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's
a
goodness.
U. Yeah.
So that would be in the U.S. That would be like a G, just general audiences. Everybody can go see it. And
yep. So here's a quote, one of the lines from the narrator. It says, "All the world will be your enemy, prince of thousand enemies, and when they catch you, they will kill you. But first they must catch you. Digger, listen, runner, prince with swift warning, be cunning, full of tricks, and your people will never be destroyed." It's seriously dark.
Ooh,
but it's excellent. It's really good. Yeah.
I am looking forward to checking this one out then. Thank you for that. That sounds good.
You're welcome. Nightmare juice for the little child inside of you.
Well, good. You know what? Okay, before we wrap up, I meant to start us off with this, but I'm going to do it now. Okay. I have a math riddle for you.
All right, okay.
And it's animal themed. That's why it fits here.
You know my math is terrible, right?
That's okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay, cool.
Okay. There are 30 cows in a field and 28 chickens. How many didn't?
There are 30 cows in a field, 28 chickens, and 28 chickens?
There are 30 cows in a field and 28 chickens. How many didn't?
Wait. Okay. 30 cows in a field and 28 chickens. How many didn't? Okay, explain it to me.
I'm going to read it slower.
Is it like didn't eat
No.
it? No. Okay.
There are 30 cows in a field
Right.
and 28 chickens.
Oh no! Damn it!
My youngest son told me that yesterday, and I sat there and I kept repeating it to myself, and I kept repeating it, and then finally
those.
it clicked.
It's
and I
so
was
obvious.
Yeah, it was right, and so I started laughing, and then everybody else in the room was like, "What? I don't get it." And so we kept repeating it, and they're like, "No."
I've seen videos on this where people get really frustrated, and the boyfriend or the partner is like, and they really slow it down, but they're still not hearing it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
Just in case nobody got it, 28 chickens.
Yes.
Not
So 10 is
20.
the answer.
Okay. Well, thanks for that.
Well, hey, on that note, we thank you all for joining us for the best thing we watched this week, the top 5 animal horrors. Hopefully we have given you something to check out that you want to add to your list, maybe a few things that you are going to absolutely avoid. I don't blame you, but either way, you know what? We would love to hear if you have some recommendations. Let us know in the comments because as I said, we have this Google Doc of just animal horrors, and I do go to them. And so let's check this one out. And so we can add more based on your recommendations. So I would love to hear those. I know Ruben would too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to check out and hear the bonus audio where we are discussing the best thing that we watched for this week, you can head over to Spotify or Anchor FM or pretty much anywhere that you listen to your podcasts and catch us there. But I am Chris with Movies and Munchies. This is Ruben with the Ruby Tuesday. And we will all catch you next week for probably the most horrifying segment that we are going to do that neither of us have been looking forward to. And it is our top 5 clown horrors. Not looking forward to it. Yeah.
I might get my wife to watch it and get her to tell me what they were like. Can I cheat?
No, you can't. You have to watch these.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh. So on that note, we'll see you next week.
Okay.